Alright, we're back. We're on a continuation of the storyline that's going on, and it's on the continuation. I'm out in public right now, so the conversations are explicit. There's no restrictions. So, I just wanted to say, I didn't get to the part that I wanted to, and this was the part that I skipped over. As you can see, Splenda, she picked her starter, Spot. She picked her starter, and Spleefa, she picked her starter. And as you can see, Spleefa made her choice in her starter. She has picked Bulbasaur. As you can see, 1 second. So she picked Bulbasaur as her starter, and I'm going to explain more in the concept after that, but I'm just going through the basis of, they chose their starters. You seen what their names were, and they chose their starters. Of course, each color frame represents their type and their Pokemon that they chose, alright? As we know, Splendid, she picked Splendid and Squirtle as her choice, which is going to be interesting. She made her choice on Squirtle, which made things interesting. And Spot, she picked Charmander also, which definitely makes things a little bit interesting that we'll find out. Once we're in the concept of things getting interesting, now I'm going to get back to me, and we're going to continue more on the route, like I said on the last episode, and I'll explain more about that then and what happened. Alright, as it is. So here's their checkpoints that have been happening, of course. I'm going to let it replay it on the quest. We arrived in Viridian City. As you all remember, went to the Viridian City Mart while we were stumbling around after the Pokemon Center and got Oak's parcel, which is the professor's parcel that happened to have all the grandchildren's Pokeballs. He delivered that, and then we ended up leaving the Poke Lab altogether after everybody was introduced with Taz, Kaz, and everybody. We went there and all that there. Got the town map from their sister, which was awesome. And here is where we saved. Okay, now we are back. Now everything's starting again. Sadly, you guys are gonna have to deal with the beeping. It's Wi-Fi accessibility. Okay. So in this instance, we're all about to leave and go on a continuation of the route, and everybody's like, let's try and test our new Pokemon. And they say, yeah, that's a great idea. Well, in the instance, I say to the rest of them, I say, shouldn't we get the professor for the research? And I'm like, yes. I'm like, yes. They are like, yeah. So they agree, of course. We all come back to the lab as I'll take the steps. We go back, get the professor, come with the professor to the route. He thinks it's a great idea. He comes out with some assistants, 5 or 6 or so. Maybe 8, I'll say, to make it interesting. A little circle around, both sides of this lovely, as you can say, Route 1, okay? How it should be also, before we even go any further in the concept, how I want to add on add-ons, there should be 2 trainers that usually sit right here, that are continuously here for eternity of the game, and they just sit here and they watch the wild Pokemon that watch, that may have stumbled or may stumble out of the grass, okay? Now, in the essence of wild Pokemon breaking out of the grassland, that's explained in another 3rd gen game, which is Emerald, when you start it and begin it, but you'll see that storyline in another sequel, okay? It's one of my favorites. The Legendary is one of my favorites, so hopefully I look forward that we get there. Now, as I wanted to also say, when they add Ash's house should be the closest house that is on the leading outskirts of the route of Pallet-Town. I believe his house is the house that leads out of Pallet-Town. So, alright? And also, they'll figure it out when we develop it, okay? But no disturbances as it is, and we get to Route 1, okay? We are here, right here in this middle center area, and everybody decides to want to get their battle on, so we get it going, alright? So, I hope y'all are ready, and we'll be a second, alright? Here we go. Now, before we get into the concept, I will explain. Of course, the battles are in the lab, as it was. The battle scene is going to be the lab, but how their battle scene is really on the route, okay? Instead, my battle scene was in the lab. Their battle scenes are outside, on the route, with the assistants, and the professor, and me. And we're all here on the route, and we're just in the background, okay? If they had it like that, okay? And that's how the scene would be. So, in the first instance, of course, with the boldness, as it's gonna be, it'd be Spot that would step up, but I'm gonna try to have it as for the movie, that she does step up first, okay?
Alright, guys.
Alright. So she battles Kaz as it is, okay? Of course, he sends out Squirtle and she sends out Flames. Yes. As it is, the professor says the same sentence as he said to me, but he calls out Spot's name this time. He says, "You never had a Pokemon battle before?" And then Kaz is smart and he's like, "No, she sure hasn't, But he says it in a cool way. He's just as cool as Taz, but he's just a mutual calm one, And that's why it's interesting that Spot has him as a rival. Him and her push each other. So it makes it much interesting. So, of course, the professor does what he does, and he explains and he speaks on how the battles pit, which you all know about this already and all that, okay? And one of the assistants says the sentence right there, okay? You already know. One of the assistants says that first again. And it's like a repeated saying, kind of, but everybody will live. So immediately she tells Flames to scratch on from it. Now it gets annoying to us as viewers watching it, knowing, but this is the grandchildren relearning and knowing. So this is why everything's gonna keep saying everything too. So this is why this scene is very important also. So of course she was on the attack prowl. She does scratch twice and does pretty good damage, and he gets nervous. He does tackle. Of course he scares her, so she says do growl. And if you would like, it could be that she could be in the beginning and know about her Pokemon and all that stuff, pull out her Pokédex. It can be like that, but it just matters. Right now, I'm about to have it as the Pokédex right now. Looking at her, Flames' information. And this is how Flames will be permanently for the series and the game. So we'll see how it ends up being.
Oh, okay, good. Okay. And yeah.
Okay. This is a reminder for the people who want to know the game. This is not my charger. And she is modest.
You can remove it and you can go in this one.
I don't have a charger going there.
So this is going to be interesting. So Blast is relaxed and Flames, she's modest.
I don't have a thing to put in here.
Sure, if you need to use this, you can.
Okay.
Just charge your phone up.
So she tells her to scratch again. You see, Flames is getting pretty exhausted. She gets a little exhausted right there. And in the instance, she does growl again. And Squirtle is exhausted as he is. Okay, she's exhausted right now. In the instance that she gets hit by the tackle and afterwards, with using growl, or it could be before she gets hit by the tackle by Kaz. Okay, Blast comes out of his Pokeball because he hears her, and it catches his attention. There's another Charmander, and he's watching beside me, watching her, and he's kind of fluctuated. You know, seeing a female Charmander, of course. So it kind of catches everybody's attention, and it catches Spot's attention. Of course, she spots it. And she's looking like, Stephanie has a Charmander too, you know, because we just met in the lab. So in this instance, she gets back to reality and she tells Flames to scratch. And of course, she wins her battle with Squirtle from Kaz. And Flames grows her level, and here's her stats. Okay. So we're going to go to the next battle that ends up happening after that. Of course, the professor says, excellent, you know. As you want, they could say all the same sentence. It can be
I brought the wrong charger, so.
Well, library closes in about a little over.
So, as it is, next that actually ends up happening is it pumps up Splenda, and she hops in next with Squirtle after seeing Squirtle go down. Now, her Squirtle wasn't out, so Splenda doesn't know about anything that's going on. Now, also in this instance, of course, the grandson returns his Squirtle because he fainted. But Flames, she stays out. She is fully healthy. She's exhausted though, so she's not really in a spurt of moving around or battling. So she's with Spot, and of course, she sees Blast, and they both are just staring at each other. But at the same time, I'm catching Blast's attention to pay attention towards the battle. So he's like looking at the battle, but he's looking at her at the same time. So in the background, while this battle is going on, you'll see periodically Blast and Flames looking at each other at the same time. If the developers can do that, and at the same time the battle will be happening, the assistants will be taking down notes while the professor is taking down notes and all that. And the other grandchildren are watching also. So it's like multiple scenario things are happening at once. So of course, professor says the same sentence to Splenda. And then of course he says that like you ever had a Pokemon battle before and all that. Daz says it a little bit more spontaneous. Daz is more like more he's like